Have you ever wondered why something that once brought relief and comfort now feels different, maybe less satisfying, maybe more draining? Or maybe, like many men over 60, you've started to notice changes in your energy, your circulation, or your connection with your partner, and you can't quite explain why. Let me tell you about a man I once treated, 74 years old, sharp mind, steady hands. One morning he collapsed in his bathroom. No heart attack, no stroke. His heart was beating, but his blood wasn't moving. When we dug deeper, we found the cause wasn't in his heart. It was in a quiet habit he'd been repeating for decades. Something he thought was harmless. Something no one ever told him could change with age. I'm Dr. Elias Hart, a men's health specialist. For over 60 years, I've walked beside retired soldiers, teachers, grandfathers, and proud fathers men, just like you, through the changes that come with aging. And time after time, I've seen one silent factor affecting their confidence, their intimacy, and their blood flow, without them even realizing it. In this video, I want to gently reveal 4 hidden mistakes many older men make when it comes to self-pleasure. These habits may seem harmless, even natural, but after 62, they can quietly weaken circulation, disrupt hormones, and create a wall between you and the kind of connection you still deserve to feel. So if any part of this feels familiar, you're not alone, and you're not beyond hope. Stay with me, because just one shift in awareness could bring back the vitality you thought was gone for good. If this message speaks to you, let me know in the comments with a simple one. Now let's begin with the first quiet mistake, the one your blood vessels have been struggling with the longest. Mistake 1, rushing the act and sending your body into vascular shock. Let me tell you something that many older men confess to me behind closed doors, often with a mix of confusion and guilt. Doc, they say I just needed a little relief, something quick, 5 minutes in and out. They don't say it with pride, but not with shame either, just honesty. But beneath those words, I often hear something deeper: years of habit, loneliness, and the quiet pressure to perform like they did decades ago. What most of these men don't realize is that this rushed mechanical routine they've repeated countless times may be quietly working against them, not morally, but physically in ways they never imagined. You see, as we age, especially after 60 or 65, our bodies change dramatically. Blood vessels lose flexibility, arteries stiffen, nitric oxide production slows. This matters because during sexual arousal and climax, blood flow becomes the main actor. When you rush the act, stimulating yourself too intensely or quickly, you trigger what I call a vascular panic. Blood surges suddenly into the pelvic region, but your circulatory system is no longer as responsive or elastic as it once was. Capillaries and veins in sensitive areas, especially in the penis, can't adapt fast enough. That sudden surge becomes a strain, not a celebration. It can lead to micro tears in vessel walls, tiny injuries, diminished elasticity. It chips away slowly at your body's ability to feel, perform, and recover. But here's where it goes deeper. The damage isn't just physical. Over time, men begin to notice something shifting. Less sensation, delayed erections, or that warmth and connection they once knew now feels faint or absent. The body stops responding the way it used to. And with that comes the quiet panic. What's happening to me? Most men blame their age, or they tell themselves it's stress. They rarely think it might be their private habits, the way they've been treating their own bodies in silence, without care, without mindfulness, without respect. I always remind my patients, intimacy isn't just about climax, it's about circulation, presence, and connection. And connection starts with yourself. If you rush through the experience just to check a box, your body will eventually respond by dulling your senses and restricting the very blood flow that once made everything come alive. Imagine this: instead of sprinting through those moments, what if you slowed down and approached the act like a form of self-care, like meditation, like a quiet ritual, something that says, I still matter. My body still deserves gentleness, attention, and gratitude. Because when you approach it with presence, your nervous system shifts. Instead of releasing stress hormones, you release oxytocin. Instead of constricting your blood vessels, your body relaxes into better circulation. Instead of bracing for a quick burst of sensation, you invite warmth, sensitivity, and healing. And make no mistake, this shift is not about performance. It's about honoring the stage of life you're in. You wouldn't sprint up a hill with 70-year-old knees. Why sprint through an experience that's meant to nourish you, not drain you? Let's return to the science for a moment. As nitric oxide levels drop with age, your body needs more time to prepare. Your heart needs time to gently elevate. Your vessels need time to dilate, not be shocked into action. If you give your body that time through slower touch, deeper breathing, and more awareness, you support your circulation instead of overwhelming it. You protect your vascular health instead of damaging it. One of my patients, Edward 68, told me this recently. When I stopped rushing, something changed. Not just physically, but emotionally. I felt more connected to myself again. Like I wasn't just going through the motions. Like I had reclaimed something. And that's the key. This isn't just about erections or performance. It's about vitality, confidence, connection. It's about undoing years of treating yourself like a machine and beginning to treat yourself like a living, breathing, worthy man again. So if you've been rushing, maybe out of habit, maybe because you didn't know any other way, I want to gently challenge you to try something different. Tonight, don't rush. Don't reach for distraction. Take your time. Listen to your body. See what happens when you replace urgency with curiosity. When you trade pressure for presence, you might be surprised by what your body remembers, what it's still capable of when you treat it like it matters. And if you're still here reading this far, it tells me something important. You're not checked out. You care. You want to feel good again. You're still curious. And that's the best sign of all. Let me know you're still with me by typing the number 1 in the comments. Because the next mistake we're about to uncover could be the hidden reason your circulation and intimacy have quietly declined without you realizing it. Let's keep going. Mistake 2. Ignoring your breath and letting tension take over. There's something quiet and nearly invisible that I've come to recognize after decades of working with men over 60-something that rarely gets talked about, yet shows up almost every time intimacy, energy, or circulation starts to decline. It isn't about medications or hormone levels. It's not even about what you're doing in your private moments. It's how you're doing it. And it almost always begins with this holding your breath. Now, you might not even notice it. Most men don't. But if you were to pause and pay attention, you'd realize that during those intimate moments, whether it's masturbation or trying to be with a partner, your breath quietly disappears. The shoulders rise, the abdomen tightens, the muscles in your hips and pelvis tense like a coiled spring. Your jaw locks. The pelvic floor, that deep network of tissue that supports your genitals, silently clenches. All of this happens below the surface, unconsciously, instinctively. You're not doing it on purpose, but it's happening, and that's the problem. Because what seems like a natural reaction is actually one of the biggest hidden threats to your circulation, your pleasure, and your long-term intimate health. You see, your body treats breath as a signal. Deep breathing tells your nervous system, I'm safe, I'm open, I'm here. But shallow breathing, or worse, breath holding, sends a completely different message. It triggers a kind of internal alarm. Your body goes into stress mode. Blood vessels constrict. Nitric oxide, the molecule that's crucial for opening blood flow to the penis, drops. And instead of encouraging relaxation, warmth, and sensation, your system tightens. It braces. It shuts down. Think of it this way: when you stop breathing, you stop flowing. That's not just poetry, it's science. The penis is one of the most blood-sensitive organs in your body. It doesn't respond well to pressure. It responds to relaxation, to rhythm, to oxygen. It needs flow, not force. But when you grip, clench, and push through your private moments trying to force a release, without breath, you're quietly creating a storm inside your own system. You're training your body to associate pleasure with tension. And over time, that training becomes habit. That habit becomes dysfunction. And that dysfunction becomes something no pill or pump can easily fix. Because the issue isn't just physical, it's energetic, it's systemic. It's how your body has learned to process arousal. I've had men sit in my office stunned when I ask, were you holding your breath? And after a pause, they nod. Yeah, I guess I was. No one had ever told them that something as simple and instinctual as breathing could have that kind of impact. No one had ever connected breath with arousal, with softness, with strength. But let me tell you, your breath is one of the most powerful tools you have. especially now, especially at this age. The older your body gets, the less it responds to brute force. It needs cooperation, grace, surrender. Deep, steady breaths help relax your pelvic muscles. They allow blood to flow freely, and they tell your nervous system to stop guarding and start opening. They create the conditions for connection, not just with someone else, but with yourself. And this is more than just medical advice. It's a kind of wisdom. When you stop rushing and start breathing, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice more. You feel more. You stop performing and start experiencing. Your private moments stop being mechanical and start feeling human again. This isn't about performance. It's about presence. So tonight I invite you to try something. When you're alone, pause. Breathe in gently through your nose, deep into your belly. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hips soften. And just notice what changes. You don't need to force anything. Just allow. Let your body catch up to your breath. Let your nervous system unwind. You may find that pleasure comes slower but also deeper. You may find that you last longer, not because you're trying, but because your body's no longer fighting itself. And over time, as your breath becomes part of your rhythm, you'll discover something surprising. The more you relax, the more powerful you feel. Not in a rushed, frantic way, but in a grounded, satisfying, quietly confident way. Remember, tension in the wrong places leads to weakness in the places you care about most. But true breath restores that strength. It reawakens the flow. It rebuilds trust between your mind and your body. And if you've made it this far, if this is resonating with you, type 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Because the next mistake we're about to talk about, well, it's one most men don't even realize they're making. It has nothing to do with how and everything to do with how often. Let's keep going. Mistake 3. Daily masturbation without recovery. Quietly draining your libido reservoir. There's something many men don't realize until it's already been happening for months, sometimes years. A simple habit done in silence, often born from nothing more than routine boredom or the soft ache of loneliness, begins to rewrite the chemistry of their body. For many men over 60, masturbation becomes a daily ritual, not necessarily out of desire, but out of habit. Something to pass the time, something that feels familiar, something that gives a brief sense of control, comfort, or release. But here's the truth. Most are never told after your early 60s, your body doesn't recover the way it once did. Your system no longer snaps back like it did at 30 or 40. Recovery slows. Testosterone rebuilds more gradually. Blood vessels take longer to return to baseline. And every active climax, even if mild or solitary, draws from a finite reservoir of resources. Nitric oxide, dopamine, testosterone, energy, desire. Each one plays a role, and each one, if used daily without rest, begins to run dry. Masturbating every day, especially without mindfulness or intention, is like leaving a faucet on in an old house. At first, it's barely noticeable. You feel a little tired. You tell yourself it's age or stress. Then you notice that the pleasure you once felt afterward now feels muted. That spark gets dimmer. Erections take longer. Sensation is duller. There's a heaviness in your pelvic region, a kind of emotional and physical numbness that lingers. One man, 67, sat across from me once with tears in his eyes. "Doc," he said, "I do it every day, but I don't feel anything anymore. I used to enjoy it. Now I just feel flat." And I saw it in his face. It wasn't shame, it was grief. Not over what he'd done, but over what he felt he'd lost. But the truth is, his body wasn't broken. It wasn't failing him. It was asking, pleading for rest. You see, when you stimulate daily without giving your system time to breathe, you're not just tiring your muscles. You're dulling the very circuits in your brain and body that create arousal in the first place. That quiet depletion affects your chemistry, your circulation, your mood, even your emotional connection to yourself and others. Dopamine. The feel-good reward chemical loses its punch. Nitric oxide levels don't have time to restore. Testosterone, the silent driver of male vitality, stays low instead of rising and falling naturally. The result? You don't feel as interested in real intimacy anymore. And that disinterest doesn't come from a lack of desire. It comes from overuse. It's like playing your favorite song every hour until you can't hear the melody anymore. The notes are there, but the meaning is gone. But here's what's important. This isn't about guilt. It's about wisdom. You're not doing something wrong. You're simply doing something too often without giving your body time to recover. And that recovery, those days of pause, reflection, of just letting your body be, are not empty spaces. They're when your system replenishes, rebuilds, restores its strength and sensitivity. When you give your nervous system space, it comes back clearer, stronger, more responsive. That's when warmth returns. That's when your drive stops feeling forced and starts feeling natural again. So instead of asking, am I doing this too much? Ask, am I giving myself enough time to heal between? Think of your libido as a reservoir. Every release draws water from the well, but it's the space between that lets the well refill. Without space, the well runs dry. And when it runs dry, it's not just your body that suffers, it's your spirit. You start feeling disconnected, not just from intimacy, but from yourself. Masturbation, when done with care, can be a beautiful act of connection and self-awareness. But when it becomes mechanical, rushed, or driven by emotional emptiness, it stops serving you. It starts stealing from you silently. And that's why recovery matters. Not just physically, but emotionally. Your body deserves more than repetition. It deserves rhythm. It deserves breath. It deserves rest. And if you've been feeling offless, interested, more numb, a little lost in your own routine, this might be why. Your body may not be tired of pleasure. It might just be tired of not being listened to. The good news is that can change starting now. You don't need to quit. You don't need to fight yourself. You just need to allow more space, more slowness, more intention. Recovery isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's what lets you keep going, stronger, deeper, and more alive. And if you're still reading, still reflecting with me here, type 1 in the comments. Let me know you're with me. Because the fourth mistake, the one we'll explore next, has nothing to do with your body. It starts in the mind. And it might be the very thing that's quietly hijacking your ability to connect, even when everything else seems fine on the outside. Let's keep going. Mistake 4. Letting porn hijack your brain and starve real intimacy. This is the conversation most older men avoid, not because they're ashamed, but because deep down it touches something tender. Not just desire, but loneliness. Not just stimulation, but the quiet ache of wanting to feel alive again. I've spoken with countless men in their 60s and 70s who no longer turn to pornography for thrill or novelty, but for comfort, for routine, for a sense of connection they once felt naturally with a partner, a touch, a moment of closeness. And yet what they're reaching for ends up pushing them further away from the very thing they're missing. Here's what most don't realize: modern pornography is not what it used to be. It's faster, louder, more extreme. It's designed by algorithms and driven by shock value, not sensuality. And when you expose your brain to that intensity regularly, especially past 60, you're not just watching something, you're rewiring something. Over time, your dopamine receptors dull. Your arousal pattern shifts from connection to conditioning. Your body starts responding less to real life and more to pixels. One man told me, tears in his eyes, "Doc, I don't feel anything with my wife anymore. Not because I don't love her, I just feel gone inside." But he wasn't broken. He was conditioned. His brain had adapted to the artificial. It had forgotten the language of human closeness. And that disconnection didn't just affect his emotions, it impacted his body. Because here's the deeper truth: arousal doesn't start in your skin. It starts in your brain. And your brain is what tells your blood vessels when and how to respond. When your nervous system is flooded daily with intense visual stimulation, it confuses that process. It blunts the natural pathways. It weakens the emotional signals that used to make real intimacy powerful. The cascade that once drew blood gently into the pelvic region now feels scrambled. Erections become unpredictable. Desire feels shallow. And being touched by a real partner, it feels distant, dull, or even stressful. And that matters because after 62, every signal matters more than ever. Every vessel that carries blood to your most intimate areas needs clarity and coordination. When those signals fade, so does your connection to yourself, to your vitality, and to your ability to truly be present. But this isn't about blame. It's about awareness. This isn't about shame. It's about reclaiming what's still waiting for you. Because your body wants to feel again. Your brain wants to remember. But it can't happen until you change the way you feed it. And yes, it starts today. That's what I tell every man who walks into my office and asks if it's too late. It's not. But it does require one decision. You must choose to shift direction, not next week, not once it's convenient, but today. Because the longer you wait, the more numbness sets in. And that numbness doesn't just affect your pleasure, it chips away at your confidence, your spark, your sense of being fully alive. But here's the good news. The brain is resilient, and the body, even in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, can begin to respond again, often faster than you expect when you give it the right environment. You don't need to punish yourself or swear off pleasure. You just need to slow down, to step away from artificial extremes and return to the simple, beautiful language of breath, of touch, of feeling. Make your private moments more intentional. Breathe deeply, soften your body, engage your senses, not through the screen, but through presence. If you've relied on intense visual content for years, gently ease into memory-based arousal, or better yet, reconnect with the feeling of being in your own skin. Allow your imagination to awaken slowly. Let arousal be something you feel, not something you chase. Give yourself rest between sessions. Let your body rebuild its sensitivity. Let your nervous system reset. Let your hormones recalibrate. Because when you stop feeding the overstimulation, your natural rhythms begin to return. Your circulation improves. Your energy increases. Your desire for real intimacy begins to flicker again. First as a whisper, then as a spark. And maybe the most courageous step of all, consider walking away from high-intensity pornography entirely. It won't be easy at first, but over time, as the noise fades, you'll start to hear your own body again. You'll feel the warmth that comes from within, not from screens, but from stillness, from intention, from the beautiful, slow restoration of sensation. You're not too old. You're not too far gone. What feels distant now, confidence, connection, vitality, it's not behind you. It's ahead, but only if you choose to move toward it. So if these words resonate with you, if any part of your story feels echoed here, type 1 in the comments below. Let me know you're with me. Let me know you're ready, because in a moment I'll show you the exact plan that can help you break free, not just from porn, but from the slow fading of your own vitality. Change doesn't start with perfection. It starts with a single breath, a shift in direction, and from there, everything can begin to return. If you're still here, then I want to speak to you heart to heart, not just as a doctor, but as someone who truly believes in your ability to change, to heal, and to reconnect with the strength that's still inside you. What we've uncovered today isn't just about private habits. It's about reclaiming the quiet moments that shape how you feel, how you love, and how fully you live after 60. Yes, these 4 masturbation mistakes may seem small, but over time they can silently affect your circulation, your confidence, and your connection to others. Rushing, tension, routine without rest, dependence on stimulation that numbs rather than nourishes. These aren't flaws, they're just habits. And the beautiful thing about habits is they can be changed. With each small shift, slowing down, breathing, resting, choosing presence over pressure, you begin to restore not just blood flow, but vitality. I've seen men in their 70s and 80s light up again, not because of a pill, but because they started listening to their own bodies with compassion and care. So if this message touched something in you, don't let it fade. Tap "Still Alive" in the comments to let me know you're here and moving forward. And if you'd like more real, honest advice like this, subscribing is a gentle way to stay connected. No pressure, just an open door. You're not too old. You're not too late. And the next chapter can still be your strongest one yet. I'll see you in the next video.